Good morning, good afternoon, LinkedIn friends. Welcome to another edition of Let's Build HubSpot Onboarding with Willem Reus. How you doing, man?
I am doing pretty well. It actually is a little bit sunny here, so that's a
Wow,
change in
that
Ireland.
is a nice day.
We are proud to say that we're the country that exports the most rain, so you kind of get that that is a little bit special. Uh, but yeah, I'm doing pretty well. And yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Just had a great chat with George. I love all these, you know, uh, mini series that we're doing. It just kind of helps to paint the whole picture and get down into the, uh, uh, instead of solving for all the symptoms, that people are struggling with, trying to get down to the real problems that lead to the need to talk about onboarding and adoption and how do we just like we feel it in our bones that people should be getting more out of HubSpot. How do we help them do that? And this series has been gotten a lot of great feedback. So we're fully invested in helping out with this. And you mentioned today, we're kind of transitioning from, okay, you just bought HubSpot and like onboarding to it as a new tool for your organization. Right now, how do we get more users? How do we get everybody in this continuous flow of, onboarding and adoption? And uh, yeah, we're taking the next step today, talking about Academy and some other ways that you can think about how to think about this ongoing flow of uh, this tool brought to your business is updating constantly. There's new opportunities, but you also have new people coming in because you're growing and you're trying to take advantage of opportunities. How do you bring that together? I think is one of our goals today to
That
help you
is
with that.
one of the key things that I think a lot of companies struggle with. And then the question is, how do you do that? Because what we work with a lot is also customers who brought in HubSpot, try to set everything up correctly. And if that worked out, may be questionable. But then basically 2 years later, they say, well, everybody left. We hardly know how to use it. We just try to maintain somewhat broken system because nobody after that was onboarded correctly. So that's why for me, onboarding isn't just the initial setup of the portal and the training of the first people, but also what I think I started off with when we talked about getting the first people on board, that we should really start thinking about, okay, but 6 months from now, if somebody onboards, then what do we do? And for me, there are a couple of ideal scenarios. One of the ideal scenarios would be that you have a whole bunch of HubSpot experts who can provide internal trainings and that sort of thing. That's usually not the case. But Chris, I hope you agree with me. That's the perfect scenario.
Well, yeah, like creating this sort of like what came to mind when you said set up. Somebody tried to set it up 2 years ago, right? And this whole idea of what onboarding actually is, like, and what we're setting up, right? And I love it when people talk about it as it's not a project, it's a product that's always in motion, always being developed. I first started talking about websites like this, a while back, where it's like we're not done. We're never done with the website, right? We always got new things and new things to share, new opportunities. HubSpot is the same way. And when you treat it like a traditional IT project, that's like, okay, here's the milestones, and this is why we call it done. Now you're not prepared for the 6 months onboarding, for the 12 months onboarding. When HubSpot brings in a prospecting workspace, like they give you reasons to do new onboardings by adding new tools, right? And if you're not setting up for that, right, you're inherently not going to be able to, take advantage of the investment that you're making.
And if we would have a bunch of employees and we were gonna ask everybody to look at all the updates, no work would get done, right? I mean, like, just try to follow that. it's impossible. So that brings us to the question like, okay, how are we going to do this? What are we going to implement? What will the product that is fair, for me very much alive, basically, what will that transform into? And if somebody comes into the organization right now, how can we set that person up for success?
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting that it's short term and long term thinking at the same time, which is challenging, but if you can embrace that, and that's again, like sometimes it's the shift from like project to product management. But what's interesting as people started talking about that, I come from a world where product management not really a thing. Like whole organizations that have grown very large do not have product management roles, and instead they have created these sales processes, these experimentation processes, these customization processes that are always living and breathing. Like every sale is its own organism. So they have these muscles in them, but trying to translate it to these tools, right, is a part of that challenge. So the thought, the ability to think in this way is there. So how can we, foster that and bring it to this side of things that they probably haven't had to, deal with before, because everything is an individual motion, but now we're growing. We need to scale that one-to-one activity. I mean, I felt it personally where I could, like, as soon as you're in the place where you say that you're in charge of growth or you're being asked to grow the business and you're bringing in HubSpot, if you find yourself in a place where every conversation that uh, you're having to do way more education than you think you should be, like that's an onboarding and training problem, right? Now, I could get to the knowledge I needed, right? At the end of that conversation, but maybe the task now it doesn't get done, right? And the more people that come in now, how much time can I actually spend on that? So people get missed, right? We don't have time for those conversations that are one-to-one. And that's when you start to, lose control of the adoption and training situation.
But that's why I think that if you're in charge of growth, you should make sure that everybody who enters the company has a basic understanding. And the reason I say a basic understanding is just imagine that you and I would hire somebody and we're going to say we're going to make that person an expert before they start. That means that it will take us half a year before that person actually gets work done. And we don't know if that person is the right fit. So you should try to use basically the growth-driven design where you say, okay, we're going to start somewhere, we're going to build the knowledge, we're going to incorporate reference materials, because for me that's also extremely important, and we're not going to talk about that today. But that should also be in place, and we're going to build out a continuation of how everything evolves. And to give one really quick example, you know what help desk is in HubSpot? For
Yes.
some customers, that is like the holy grail, and it really, really is fantastic. Yesterday, I think, I talked to a customer and I told that customer, just stick with deals, no matter what you do. This makes more sense for your very, very specific case. Because sometimes the obvious and the nice, shiny features that everybody is talking about may not be the solution.
Yeah, it often is. It often is that way. But as an admin or a leader, and especially when you're invested, you're responsible for this investment. You
Yeah.
don't want to miss the times that it is like the right thing either. So it's this challenge that, like, what came to mind as you mentioned, like trying to bring people in and how fast can we make them an expert in the thing, right? It's what for me, like, what are we making them an expert in, right? And if we can get to the first milestone of like be an expert, and this is a moving thing, like it's living, breathing. It's never going to be like, okay, I was trained on that yesterday, like I'm good, right? Figuring out how to be in that fluid state, I think is super important.
Yeah, sorry, I said help desk. I meant the prospecting workspace, and then it makes more sense, my comment. But
I connected the dots in my head, but
yeah,
thank you for
but
that
is
clarification.
that really the way to go? And like you said, you don't want to miss the boat. So that means that ideally you have somebody in the organization who will actually look at that and who will decide, well, should my people be trained on this? Or are we gonna miss the boat intentionally? And sometimes missing the boat is a good idea.
Yeah, and that's what, yeah, I started with this series. I hoped to help with that because even now, like I'm in client relationships where I know that they want something so tangible. Like I'm gonna get this thing on this date, and here's the scope, and it's gonna be exact, and I'll know exactly when it's gonna be done. I know exactly when it is getting done, and it's a constant push pull of helping them understand it. That doesn't set us up for success. Like when we try to treat these projects that way.
Exactly.
So how can we kind of live in this space where like when it gets done, uh, because sometimes it doesn't get done because we haven't trained anybody on it yet. We haven't made time to sit everybody down and say, hey, we're about to implement this thing. Here's how it works, right? Instead, we can like I could go build some stuff in their HubSpot right now, like, but it doesn't mean anything if we haven't done all the other things, right? Including and especially onboarding and training.
If you don't build a foundation for everybody, then you will really get, I'm going to say, a reverse T shape where you have one or two people who really are the
Right.
experts who want to roll out all the new features and are super excited. And likely, as maybe for even for you as a partner, those are the people that you talk to, and they really understand what they're doing. They really would get the benefit from it, but the organization does. And that's where I feel like we should really focus on building the knowledge from the ground up, saying to people who just onboard in their first day, first week, for first month, however you structure that as a company, this is what you should know about HubSpot. And how are we going to do that?
I think you just blew my mind with that reverse T shape. Uh, is there a name for that? Is there a name for that? So
No,
I'm thinking
I just made it up.
like,
So,
right,
but
but it's
you
like upside
did get the
down.
idea.
Yeah, like so we've got an upside down T, right? And there's people that are already super knowledgeable, right? And that's the stem of the T. And then but now everybody else is at this knowledge level,
Yeah.
right?
And
And the
everybody
goal,
just asks that person,
right?
and they're
So
not
when I'm
doing
talking
anymore.
about the one-to-one knowledge conversations, I'm trying to bring everybody like into the stem, and like what I tried and did not work before is like, okay, I'll just build it and we'll put it in, and that'll make it easier to bring them up to the knowledge because they'll feel it. And unfortunately, that just does not work in most
That does
cases.
not work.
The rare cases where you have an early adopter that they get it, they get the strategy and they're like, yeah, I'll try anything, like, right? We constantly say we want to find those people, those super users, and then use them to bring it into the organization. It's not that simple, man. It's just not, right?
If you know exactly how HubSpot works, and let's say that you know every feature that's undoable, I know, but let's just say you know everything, and I know absolutely nothing. You can't teach me. There's no way. Because with every word you say, I feel stupid. I will not pay attention. You are not in that case the best teacher. You should do something else. I don't know what. And we should get somebody in who is truly mediocre at HubSpot, and that person should teach me. And that is why I think that for a lot of companies, if they bring somebody on board, before you actually start teaching them one to one, maybe something like the academy is a good place to start, where I don't feel stupid for not knowing what exactly the C in CRM is.
Yeah. Oh man. No, that's a good point. And that's why you can start sharing your screen, whenever with the academy. But like when I'm thinking back to like these experiences, especially as we transition and like why the academy uh we'll say used to work a lot better than it does now in these situations, right?
Because there
Um,
were just a few trainings and yeah,
right. But even back then, the most successful training or certification that I could get people on board with, including leadership, was the inbound certification because it was 2 hours or less, and it was 100% strategic, right? Not tool focused, right? It was the strategy I had gotten approval to bring into the organization. So if I can start, it was imperative for me to start there because if we don't start with the language of inbound, all these other courses and all these other conversations we're having, I'm having to explain words in the moment. And well, I was forced to do that. That's not the scalable part. But why the one-to-one conversations worked is that it was always in the context of a project or some jobs to be done, or like, this is how you're going to do this thing you're already doing now. And that's the part where these serve best, I think, when it's hand in hand with that personalized, stuff too. Like, this is what it means for your job. But we got to find ways like this academy where it's like, okay, we talked about this thing. Now, if you need to know more about it, or if you need to remember what this thing means, like, here's the videos that make sense, for you, right? Um, yeah, I'll let you
there's
go on
always
that
the
point.
question, what do I do first? And for me, there is no right or wrong. If, let's say, I would go through HubSpot onboarding today, I would still learn new things that I didn't see the first time because there was too much just straight over my head. Uh, what I personally find as a best practice is give somebody, depending on their department, give them a curated playlist where you feel like this is what fits in the organization. This creates a common, well, framework for us. This creates a common language. And from there on, try to say, well, this is how we do it. Because in an academy course, do you think that they will show you what template your company uses? No, of course not. That's not doable. But one of the things that you can do is create playlists and assign them to somebody. And how playlist works is pretty simple. In this case, I created one for marketing and I created one for sales. You can include your company's thumbnail in there, whatever you prefer. And you can add complete courses or the lessons in there. You can't include one single video. So it has to be either a lesson or a course. But this way you can say, well, okay, what exactly is the autonomy uh, of a CRM introduction to Marketing Hub? Because I think that the tool is quite important. And this really differs from person to person. So one person may think about strategy first and the tool second, and somebody else may do it the other way around. So whatever you prefer, and you can flip them around and that sort of thing, and have somebody say, well, you should really look at the in this order or in whatever order you prefer.
Yeah, and as you say that, like, this is how, like, none of this is set in stone, right? So when we're constantly thinking about how do we onboard, how we're helping people right now, but also how do we onboard the next person? How do we teach the next person? It's
Exactly.
so easy to come in here And this is where it's like the flexibility of an admin or the champion. We need you here, right? This is where if
So
somebody tells you that it didn't make sense or it's out of order,
to
right?
have something in there. Yeah.
You've got to like take stock in that. That doesn't mean go change the playlist right away, but maybe you document that, and after 5 people tell you that, you change the playlist, right?
Then
You
maybe you
update
listen.
it, right?
Yeah, but really a quick example is I have sales onboarding in here. Is the prospecting workspace in there? Shouldn't that be in there? So
Yeah.
maybe
Oh, who's here's a great comment too. Yeah, I wonder if there's a future state where an AI agent helps you build your playlists based on the user's role and level of subscription.
that would be a nice idea.
That would be amazing. And I think that's definitely a possibility in the future. Because there's lots, I know how much data you guys see, on the customer success side of things about how certain tools are getting used and how others maybe
No
not so
comment.
much, right? There's a lot of data around that can be used to uh, teach AI in conjunction with all the resources that are available, and say, hey, not even in playlists would be cool, but just all these coachable moments, right, where we get it like in the moment, like, hey, and I've told a lot of product managers this too, like instead of focusing so much on AI doing the thing for them, maybe ask AI to say, uh, is this the right thing for right now? Like maybe take a like rewatch this video that you already watched, right? And maybe that can help, right? There's moments like that, and I look forward to that day for
I
sure.
really like that idea. So it's a great comment. But unfortunately, no, not today, basically. But as you can see, you can save it here, and then it will just pop
So
up.
wait, if we go back though, uh, like it looks like you can add an on-the-go video to the playlist, right?
Correct.
So now we can add individual,
Uh,
videos.
only on the go videos.
Right.
So not individual videos. So not the individual videos from a lesson, because a
Okay.
lesson may contain multiple videos, but on the go is the only exception where you can include one video.
Right. Well, that's
Uh,
exciting to see, at least
because
because we
basically
know,
we see on the go as a complete lesson. That's how you should kind of try to wrap your mind around why it is possible for the on the go videos and why it's not for the videos in the lessons.
right.
Does that
And
make any sense?
yeah, I think so. And we know that there's going to be more of those on the way. They're looking
Yep.
to external creators as well to help with that. And so if you haven't seen the on the go videos yet, definitely check some of them out. And the team is looking for feedback on, you know, uh, how to provide a great experience there. Because this is what, how many times I know I did it a lot. I was like, okay, here's the link to this course, but I need you to, but it's this piece of the course. Like, so
Yep.
don't click off of that. Like, I need you to, that's the video that matters to you. Like, and heaven forbid you actually start at the beginning and you actually get something that means nothing to you, and then you just don't watch any of the course. Right?
Yep. Because for all you care, you may have a video of 36 minutes.
Yeah. No, and that
And of course,
happens.
this is a complete lesson, but you still get the idea. And the on-the-go videos are really to the point. You have a question, we're gonna answer that.
Yeah. And I have to share a story at the last gig. Like, this is where I was working with somebody who was invested in the future of HubSpot at the organization. It hadn't touched her department yet of service. But even there, I took for granted her level of interest in HubSpot working for the company, right? That I didn't have to throw all these disclaimers out. I didn't have to curate, videos and make sure it was applicable. So I said, hey, like, go watch the Service Hub. Here's the Service Hub certification, right? It's got all the, there's no reasons at this point why this handoff of training to this manager, like this should work. Like there's no reason for me to question that this is going to work. Well, some of the first videos talk about chat, right? And not every team, a lot of teams, in fact, don't want to touch chat, or they have touched chat in the past. It didn't go well, right? So immediately that colored the view of the whole Service Hub,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because I didn't vet that out about where the actual need was. I just said, hey, let's go learn about Service Hub and then we'll talk about it after, right? So that's kind of the nuance that we're dealing with. And now that we have access to these videos, you can get much more specific than you could before to make sure that they get the exact piece of content that you're hoping for them to get.
Yeah, and it's not just about the time wasted, but it's about the interest. That
Yes.
is just out of the window.
Yeah. That's a huge, huge factor, especially when you have somebody bought in and then it like finds a way to just send the wrong message. And it's like, oh, HubSpot's not what I thought it was, or now it's going to create all this work that I didn't want. It's it's a challenging game to play for sure, but understand that you have to play it. Like if you don't, uh, HubSpot's a tough sell for people that have never seen it before, and they're used to doing things a certain way. Um, so it's your job as an admin, or the person responsible for onboarding and training, to build those bridges wherever they need to be built. And like it or not, they're different bridges for different people.
Yeah, but I hope that for today we've shown that you can, in an easy way with the HubSpot Academy, bring everybody's level up to a point where you can say, we're going to take it from here. And that really elevates the end level. Well, not really end level, but the base level that you have in your company.
Yes, yes. And oh, this is exciting. And we're excited, to continue this conversation, next week. Because special guest Matt Bolian, he's going to be joining us for, we're serious about onboarding, and you're doing yourself a disservice, I think, if you're relying on HubSpot exclusively, right, as the only place to create these videos. And and Supered, I've been a big fan, since I think February of 23, as they were still in super beta mode. This ability to provide, in-app guidance, in the moment guidance of work. It's a very powerful thing, and more so in onboarding and adoption, I'd say, than anywhere else. So of course we have to highlight that tool and what Matt's been doing over there. So we're happy he's going to come by next week and join us for some exciting pre-inbound conversation. It's going to be fun, man.
Really looking forward to that.
So as we think about what else is possible, maybe what's missing in your onboarding plan leading up to next week, find some opportunities and let's grow. Have a great day, everybody.